Hello students, welcome to Legacy AS Academy. In this particular video, we are going to continue with our mapping series relevant for UPSC Prelims examination and are going to discuss about the geography of Southeast Asia in detail. So, let us try to first of all understand on the map itself which region is referred as Southeast Asia. So, as you can see from this particular map, the region that is shaded in orange color is what we generally called as Southeast Asia. This is located in the southern and eastern part of Asian continent and basically you can say surrounded by two oceans, Indian Ocean to the west and Pacific Ocean somewhere to the east and north as such. So, if first of all if you look at the broad overview of this particular region, the Southeast Asia as we have discussed, it is somewhere located in the Asian continent and both between South East Asia as well as from the south you also find Australia here, lies between Indian and Pacific Ocean. Now most importantly, how many countries are part of Southeast Asia? The answer is 11. These 11 countries are also member of the ASEAN, that is Association of Southeast Asian Nation, a very important regional organization for this particular region as such. Now overall physically if you talk about, they divide it into two regions. One is the mainland region and other is the maritime region. Again if you try to understand from the map, mainland region refer to that part of Southeast Asia which is connected directly to the Asian continent, which is part or extension of the Eurasian landmass, and maritime region refer to these island countries that you see here. They are basically surrounded by ocean from all the sides. That's why mainland Southeast Asia and maritime Southeast Asia. These region, because of its strategic location between Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, they are considered as a region of major trade routes and also interestingly monsoon climate, a very unique kind of climate pattern within a pattern you will see here as well. Now, if you look at the countries of Southeast Asia, what countries constitute the mainland Asia? These are countries such as Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam. Again, if you look here, so Myanmar, if you start from north, Myanmar whose capital is Naypyidaw, then you have the Thailand, capital is Bangkok, Laos with capital Vientiane, then you have Cambodia, capital is Phnom Penh, and we have Vietnam where capital is Hanoi. Then further you have Malaysia and Singapore. Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur and Singapore, as you know, is the capital of Singapore city. Apart from that, Indonesia, Jakarta capital, Philippines, Manila, Brunei, Dar es Salaam and Timor-Leste. These countries are considered as part of the maritime Southeast Asia as such. Collectively, they constitute an area of about 4.5 million square kilometer. To compare, India's area is about 3.2 million square kilometer. So, entire Southeast Asia is obviously or definitely bigger than the entire India's area as such. Population wise, they hold about 680 plus million population as such, with Indonesia being one of the most population dense countries and highest population countries. Now, if you look at the geographical division of this particular region, we can divide it into multiple parts. The first is what you can call as the peninsula, called as Indo-China Peninsula, which is part of mainland Southeast Asia. So, if you try to understand it from this particular map itself, this entire region that we are talking about, this is what we call as a Indo-China Peninsula. These constitute countries such as Myanmar, Thailand, you have Cambodia and Vietnam as such. On the other hand, to the south of this Indo-China Peninsula, as you can see, this region is what we call as Malay Peninsula. Malay Peninsula largely has two countries. These are Malaysia and Singapore. And Malay Peninsula and Indo-China Peninsula are connected by a narrow landmass. This narrow landmass geographically is referred as isthmus, I-S-T-H-M-U-S, isthmus, and this isthmus is called as isthmus of Kra. So, very important fact to keep in mind, isthmus of Kra, what does it connect? It connects Indo-China Peninsula to the north and Malay Peninsula to the south as such. Then as we move further away, we can see that this entire region is referred as archipelago. Archipelago is a term that means a group of islands. So, here you will find a number of islands. These make up or constitute Philippines and also further Indonesian island. These all are volcanic islands. So, these are the archipelago. And then in the coastal area of Vietnam, you will find deltas formed by rivers such as Mekong, and also you have the lowland, that means fertile alluvial plain, very significant for agricultural activities. That's the geographical division. Now, in the geography, one of the major landforms that cover the entire Southeast Asia is the mountain system. So, if you take a look at the major mountain systems of Southeast Asia, first mountain range that you see here, this is Arakan Yoma. Yoma basically is a Myanmarese or Burmese term that means mountain. So, Arakan mountain. It is located along the coastal region of Myanmar, as you can see from here, and this play a very important role, oriented toward Bay of Bengal. So when the monsoon winds strike this Arakan mountain, they are deflected in the reverse direction, eastward direction, westward direction, and that's when they enter India and causes heavy rainfall. So very important from India's monsoonal perspective. Second is Tena Zerim Hill. Tena Zerim Hill basically is a hill that is located between Thailand and Malaysia as such here. This region we talk about. Then we have Annamite range, that is part of the southern Laos. Then we have Barisan mountain. Barisan mountain you will find on one of the largest island of Indonesia, that is called as Sumatra Island. So along the western coast of Sumatra you will find Barisan mountain. And then in the Philippines you will find the chain of highlands. These are called as Central Cordillera. That means overall 5 major mountain ranges we can see that is present across this entire Southeast Asia as such. Then coming to next, we have the Himalayan extension and fold mountain, how they are connected with Himalayas, how they are basically geologically and historically connected to Himalayas. So basically Arakan Yoma itself, if you talk about, these are believed to be the extension of Himalayan system, because if you talk about the early geological age, you have the Indian plate, and on the other side you have the Eurasian plate. So we know that Himalayas largely form when Indian plate collided with Eurasian plate, leading to the upfolding of sediment. So Himalaya is considered as fold mountain. It is the same collision that also has resulted into formation of mountain ranges such as Arakan Yoma in Myanmar as such. So overall we can say Indo-Australian and Eurasian plate collision, these are responsible for mountain chains, mountain ranges of this entire Southeast Asia, and that's the reason why majority of the mountains are oriented in north-south direction as such. These mountains also act as a climatic barrier as they prevent winds from moving on the other side, and to some extent we can say they also in many areas create what we term as orographic effect. Orographic effect refer to the effect where the winds flowing across the mountain, when they rise along one slope, they cause heavy precipitation here, but on the other slope when they descend, they are dry wind, cold winds that do not cause any rainfall. However, in this region, because of various different type of physical diversity, the biodiversity of area is also rich. Now, apart from mountain, we can take a look at the important plateaus that are part of Southeast Asia. The first plateau is Shan. Shan Plateau you will find here. So you can see it is a part of Myanmar. So in central part of Myanmar you have the Shan Plateau. Shan State also you can find in Myanmar as such. Second is called as Khorat Plateau. So as you can see from the map, this region is the Khorat Plateau. So Khorat Plateau is located in the central part of Thailand. Then next we have is Bolaven Plateau. Bolaven Plateau is located in the southern part of Laos. So you have country like Laos, this is Laos, south you have Cambodia. So in the southern part of Laos you have the Bolaven Plateau. In Vietnam, the central part is called as Central Highland here, around Da Nang and Dalat. These are some of the major cities. And overall, here and there, you will find large number of hills and mountains. Apart from plateaus, they are made up of sedimentary rocks such as limestone, as well as they also have volcanic composition. Interestingly, here you can see a very important lake you would find in the central part of Cambodia. This lake is called as Tonle Sap Lake. Very, very important, very we can say famous from the tourism perspective. A lot of tourists flock to this lake. So Tonle Sap Lake you will find here, and then around that you will have numerous seas you can see, and Mekong River Delta further to the south as such. So plateaus, I hope you understand what are the important plateaus, where are they located. If you talk about the major river systems of Southeast Asia, because rivers are considered as the lifeline of this region, as they supply water to such a huge population that you have in this area, plus they also bring sediment along with themselves that causes deposition, that upon deposition create fertile alluvial plain as well as deltas, and that's how the food security of this region is ensured. Because if you try to understand, if there were no rivers, then obviously the food production would have become difficult, agriculture would have become difficult, and sustaining such a huge population, large population would have been almost impossible to think. So if you talk about the major river systems, first of all, if you highlight, these rivers are Irrawaddy River, the first major river. Irrawaddy River, as you can see from the map itself, Irrawaddy River is this one. So it flows across the Myanmar. Old ancient name of Myanmar, as you know, was Burma. Sometime in the map you will see it is also written as Burma. So it's same. So Irrawaddy flowing through Myanmar, as you can see, it flows to the entire central region of Myanmar and then finally drains out in what we can call as the Andaman Sea. Second important river is Salween river. Salween, as you can see, originates from the Tibetan plateau. Then it flows in the eastward direction, then it takes a southward turn, and again it flows along the Myanmar region, and near the capital city of Myanmar, basically you have Yangon. So away, slightly far away from capital, it forms a delta, and then again it discharges itself in the Andaman Sea, that is part of Indian Ocean. So both of these rivers, Irrawaddy, Salween, very notable, very important river for Myanmar. Then the next river is called as Mekong, one of the longest river of this region, largest river of this region. So Mekong also, as you can see, it originates from the same Tibetan plateau. Tibetan plateau, as you know, is considered as one of the major plateau through which give rise to numerous rivers. Like in India, Brahmaputra river you can see called as Sangpo, also originate from Tibetan plateau. So most of these rivers are flowing in the west to east direction. So one of such river is Mekong, as you can see. So Mekong originates in China, Tibetan plateau. Then it enters through countries, several countries such as Laos, then it flows along the border of Laos and Thailand, then again flowing along border of Laos and Thailand, it then further goes south, enters Cambodia, and again while flowing through the central part of Cambodia, it enters the southern part of Vietnam, and near the city of Ho Chi Minh, it then drains out in the South China Sea, forming one of the largest delta of the Southeast Asia. So very important river called as Mekong river. How many countries does this flow through? Several countries, we'll talk about them later, but we understand China, Laos, Vietnam, Thailand and Cambodia. Second river is Chao Phraya, not very important river, not very large river, but it is in the Thailand. So near the capital city of Bangkok, you will find the river Chao Phraya, and then another small river you will find called as Red River, also called as Hong River. So Red River or Hong River is a river that flows in Vietnam. So these are the rivers that we can say are part of the Southeast Asia, supplying water to large number of the people. Now, the one river which we have to study in more detail is the Mekong River system, we can say. The major difference between river and river system is when we talk about river or use the term river, we are referring to one stream, while river system includes all the tributaries and distributaries of a particular large river. Originate in Tibetan plateau, as we discussed, flow through 6 countries. Which countries? China, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, Vietnam. And then it forms fertile delta in Vietnam, supports agriculture and fisheries. Like in the southern part of this river, Mekong River Delta, it is known for large scale fishing activities, plus several hydroelectric projects also have been commissioned over this particular river itself. Interestingly, Mekong Ganga Cooperation is a regional organization which has been created in this area to also ensure relationship, we can say regional relationship between India and the Southeast Asia. River deltas in plain, Mekong Delta, Irrawaddy Delta, Chao Phraya Basin we have discussed, Red River in Vietnam, and these deltas, they are the reason why rice cultivation, paddy cultivation is one of the major crops that is grown here, and it supports large number of people here. So if you talk about entire South Asia, if you talk about which is the staple crop, obviously it is paddy and rice. It is water intensive crop. It could not have been grown without the availability of river water. So densely populated rice region, we can say. Now, apart from these delta, there are certain areas which is known for the coastal plains. So, the most interestingly, you have the narrow plains you will find in Vietnam as such all along the coastline of South China Sea, and in the same time if you go further inward, in Thailand you will find wide alluvial plains, because rivers that flow across the Thailand, they undergo meandering. Meandering means they flow in a kind of wave-like pattern, and they deposit large volume of sediment all around this channel, creating a wide alluvial plain as such. Now, because this entire Southeast Asia, as we have seen in the map, is opening toward the seas and oceans, so definitely there are a large number of ports and port-based settlement we will find here. Actually, one of the largest cities of each of the country that are part of Southeast Asia, you will find they are located along the port region. So like Ho Chi Minh, the second important city, financial city of Vietnam, is located along the port area, coastal areas. Plus, because it has maritime climate, from both sides you have the availability of ocean, sea, and that's why when the winds move, they create a lot of cyclonic situations, cyclonic conditions, and that result in the flood. So all these countries, they devastated by flood almost every year, largely brought by tropical cyclones. Plus, in the coastal areas, in the deltaic areas, the major forest which you will find here is the mangrove forest, and in almost all these countries, especially in Thailand and Vietnam, mangroves are a major covered large part of the forest area. Now obviously we have discussed entire Southeast Asia is classified as mainland region and the maritime region. So maritime region is largely made up of islands and archipelagos. So if you take a look at the map here, the region that is shaded here in orange is the part called as archipelago. So interestingly, if you look here, Indonesia, it is considered as the world's largest archipelago, spread across large part all the way from north to south. You can see major islands of Indonesia, you can say, which is part of Indonesian archipelago are Sumatra Island, then you will find Java Island, then Bali, the most popular tourist destination, then you have Sumatra Island shared between Brunei, Malaysia and Indonesia, and several other islands you will have further to the eastward direction. Philippines also constitute a large number of islands. You can see this entire region. Basically, the islands of small, mid to large size belong to Philippines. So overall, somewhere more than 7,000 plus island you will find in the Pacific Ocean. Then Malay Archipelago, we have just discussed Malay Peninsula. Malay Peninsula is the part of the extended landmass that today this consists of countries such as Singapore and Malaysia. Similarly, the part of the island which is belonging to Philippines is referred as Malay Archipelago. Borneo, Sumatra we already have discussed, and all these islands are either result of OO convergence or OC convergence, and that's why either they are tectonic in origin or most of them, as we know, are volcanic in origin. So a lot of active volcanoes you will find here, because if you talk about this entire region, it is located along the Pacific Ring of Fire. Pacific Ring of Fire, you would have heard about it, read about it in geography. It refers to the rim of the Pacific Ocean along which you have the OC or OO convergence that is going on. So whenever you have ocean-ocean convergence, ocean continent convergence, we know that as a direct result, large volume of magma is generated. The magma then pushes its way up through the landform, to the crust of earth, comes out in the form of eruption, and then when the lava start to cool down and solidify, they create mountain, plateau, island like a structure as such. So part of Pacific Ring of Fire. Active volcanoes will find numerous in both Indonesia and Philippines archipelago. The important one being Mount Merapi, for example, Indonesia. You have Mount Krakatoa, that we can also say, Mount Agung that erupted very recently as such, Mount Bromo you have. So numerous volcanoes you will find in the country. So Mount Merapi, Mayon, fertile volcanic soil, that also you will find here. Plate wise, if you try to think what kind of tectonic setting the Southeast Asia is sitting. So as you can see from here, this side we have the Indo-Australian plate, this side you have the Pacific Ocean plate, the upper side you have the Eurasian plate. So three plates are continuously interacting here. The major plates we are talking about: Indo-Australian plate, Eurasian plate and the Pacific plate. And due to this plate interaction, you have a lot of geophysical phenomena that you would see taking place, the important one being volcanic eruption. If volcanic eruption is going on, you can understand that magma is trying to push its way up through the earth's crust. It causes disturbance, it causes shaking and vibration in the rock system that definitely triggers earthquake. And as you can see, all around this area you have huge volume of ocean water. So any high magnitude earthquake, generally of higher than 7.5 magnitude on the Richter scale, it could also trigger tsunami. So we can say this entire region, especially the maritime part of Southeast Asia, they are prone to volcanism, prone to earthquake and prone to tsunami. So natural disasters keep occurring here at a frequent basis. As far as desert and arid region is concerned, you can understand that because of its unique location, from both sides it is influenced by the maritime environment, and you have all the time either northeast wind or the southwest wind, they keep on bringing moisture. So major deserts you would not find here. Desert is only found further up when you go to the China, that is in the central part of the continental landmass. Limited dry zone you will find here and there in the central part of Myanmar, that is because some kind of continentality effect you would see taking place here. Rain shadow region obviously we have, as you have discussed, that along the Arakan mountain also. If you talk here, this is Arakan. So when winds rise along this slope, they causes heavy rainfall, but when they descend on the other side, they cause very limited rainfall, very low amount of rainfall, low precipitation. So limited dry zone, it is part of the central Myanmar. Rain shadow regions you have. Seasonal drought sometimes is seen in the case of inland Thailand, that is because of high temperature and the dry season. That is again causing this seasonal drought. Many times forest fire also you would see taking place in the northern part of this Thailand as such. So overall, if you talk about despite these exceptions, mostly entire Southeast Asia region enjoy what you can call as a tropical humid type of climate. Tropical because latitude is tropical, humid because surrounded by water bodies, seas and ocean. As far as the forest of this region is concerned, we can take a look here. tropical rainforest. These will find largely in Indonesia and Malaysia. Not only tropical, even in some parts you would see equatorial rainforest, because if you talk about equator, equator is passing through this region. So as you can see, equator passes through Sumatra island of Indonesia plus Borneo island as well. So around this region you have equatorial rainforest. Further up north and south you will find tropical rainforest. So overall very high forest diversity, forest density plus multi-species forest you would find here. Monsoon forests are found in the mainland region, because that's where the effect of the southwest monsoon and northeast monsoon is clearly visible, plus because rivers are flowing out along the coastal areas like Mekong River, Irrawaddy River, Salween River. Here we have mixing of the river water with the sea water that creates a conducive environment for the growth of mangrove vegetation, also called as littoral or swamp forest. So those you will find here, for example. Overall, because this entire region is located within equatorial and tropical latitude, the biodiversity naturally becomes quite higher. This is one of the major hotspot in terms of biodiversity of the entire world. However, the concern being raised by scientists here is that due to various uses under which forest is being put, rapid deforestation is being seen. The case in point is Indonesia and Malaysia, where large amount of forest, rainforest is being destroyed to convert this land into a rubber plantation, largely to extract economic benefits and opportunities from there. The most interesting feature of this region, however, can definitely be called as the karst topography. Karst topography refer to that area where the rock structure is largely of limestone and dolomite in nature, and due to continuous rainfall you have different structures that form as the karst rock began to dissolve. Basically the limestone began to dissolve, so a lot of caverns, caves like a structure that develop here, a stalactite, a stalagmite, ualas, poljays, all you would have studied definitely in the this landforms of the earth. So Vietnam and Thailand are some countries, as you can see from here, they are famous for limestone hills. Similarly, in Vietnam, you will find the largest limestone cave of the entire world. It is called as Phong Na cave. Again, limestone cave, example of karst topography. Tower karst formation you will see. Tower karst formation, you would have heard about the Avatar mountains. It is in the China. So such kind of structure you will find. These are kind of tall tower-like mountain structures. So it is vertical structures and very thin in nature compared to general mountain as you think of. So these are what you call as tower karst. All of these are limestone structures, because here erosion, continuous rainfall, flow of river has caused entire rock to simply disintegrate, erode away, while this relatively harder piece, erosion resistant piece, is still standing in tower like structure. Sinkholes and underground rivers you will find here, because when karst landform develop, this is the limestone structure. So when heavy rainfall occurs, they start to dissolve and gradually you will see a cave like a structure that develops here. And because of the unique structures, unique we can say sites that you will see developing here, it also attract large number of tourists who are engaged in various different kind of activities, such as you can say boating, sailing activities through the cave like structure as such. Now last, if you talk about the entire Southeast Asia, the defining feature is that it is surrounded by ocean, and within the ocean you have numerous seas. So very important to understand what are the important sea around the Southeast Asia. So some of the important ones we can highly mark here. One is the South China Sea. We can look here. So this is your Vietnam. So entire Vietnam coast we can say is oriented towards South China Sea, and on the other side you have the islands of Philippines. Similarly, you have Andaman Sea. So entire mainland or Indo-China peninsula that we have discussed about, it is opening up to Andaman Sea. So countries like Myanmar, then you have Thailand, then you have Singapore, then you have Malaysia, all of these are open toward Andaman Sea. Then along the islands of Indonesia such as Java, you will find Java Sea. Then further you have Sulu Sea. Sulu Sea basically separates Borneo Island and the Philippines Island. Very important point to remember, Sulu Sea. Sulu Sea is a small sea located in Borneo Island, that is part of Indonesia, Malaysia largely, and Philippines further up to the north. And then we have this Celebes Sea. So Celebes Sea, again you see this area that we have here. Again you have the island groups of Indonesia, island groups of Malaysia, they are separated by Celebes Sea. Apart from that, several straits you will find here. One of the most notable strait is this one called as Strait of Malacca. So Strait of Malacca is located between the Sumatra island of Indonesia and the Malay Peninsula. as we have discussed before as such. Very, very vital choke point, very, very vital transit route, because from the perspective of China, if you think here, majority of China's trade passes through Strait of Malacca, especially oil and natural gas based trade or commodity based trade as such. That is the important this seas passes that we discussed. The first one is the Strait of Malacca as shown here clearly. Sunda Strait also is very important strait that you will find here. Lombok Strait, Makassar Strait. So all of these are basically a strait. Again, to define it is simply a narrow water passage that connects two large land masses. So this is the Strait of Malacca. Further you have Sunda Strait here you will find. So all of these are basically a strategic maritime choke point and can be used by few countries to also create a pressure on other countries in case of war or adverse situation. So very, very important. Indian Navy always keep an eye out on the Singapore Strait and the Strait of Malacca because of the adversarial relations sometimes that we see developing between China and India. Overall climate, we have discussed before, can be considered as tropical monsoon climate. Between May to September, majority of these countries are influenced by the southeast monsoon, same like India, while between October to February, they are experiencing northeast monsoon, again similar to India. To some extent, there is a climatic similarity between the Indian landmass and the Southeast Asian region. And the coastal areas of this region, if you talk about here, either the western coast such as Thailand, Myanmar coast, and the Malay Peninsula, or the eastern coast such as Vietnam coast largely and to some extent Thailand. And because of the narrow nature here, central part also to some extent sometimes are influenced by this cyclones, and heavy coastal rainfall is a defining feature of this entire Southeast Asia region. Typhoon is a term that is used for the cyclones, tropical cyclones in countries such as Philippines and Vietnam as such. So basically they are same, tropical cyclone called as typhoon, and also in some areas they are called as hurricanes like in United States of America. These are some of the most important facts we have discussed, we have tried to understand on the regional map as well, which will play a very important role in ensuring that you are able to write or find correct answer in the mapping questions asked in UPSC Prelims generally. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much.